High 42, breezy. Rain changing over to snow overnight, low 36. 32 right now. Next news coming up at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Make sure to check out the Income Store live video stream of today's show right now at 560theanswer.com.
If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Bolshevik Bernie talking to John Howard, NBC. Played a couple clips earlier in the show. Here's this one on criminalizing companies he doesn't like. Criminalizing the conduct of companies he doesn't like.
ExxonMobil, the executives at ExxonMobil and other fossil fuel industries knew that the product that they were producing was causing climate change and, in fact, helping to destroy this planet. That's what they knew. And yet, what they did is use them...
Put them in the same category as tobacco executives.
Exactly. All right? If you're producing a product and you don't know that it's causing harm, that's one thing. That's forgivable. But if you are like the tobacco industry, we go before Congress, we swear that all of our research has shown that there is not a problem with tobacco causing cancer or heart disease. They lied. My father died because he smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day. Millions of people in the same boat. These are liars. These are criminals.
Criminals.
Oh, my gosh.
Violators of companies that violate Sherman Act strictures, they should be criminally prosecuted.
Oh, involuntary manslaughter? What's he suggesting there?
This also talking about fossil fuel companies with these the California blackout situations,
right.
the wildfires that are raging out of control.
It's pretty bad. Red flags for the first time.
Mike Schellenberger, who writes on environment and science over at Forbes, man, he have a good riff on Gavin Newsom. I know you're anxious to display empathy and outrage, but you're governor. Start acting like one. You need to declare an emergency and mobilize workers, PG&E and non-PG&E, to clear areas around power lines to prevent fires and put an end to these insane, dangerous blackouts. You're acting like you're acting helpless, like all you can do is berate PG&E on Twitter and virtue signal. Declare an emergency. You don't need the permission of PG&E or the unions. Yes, they're your donors, but you work for us, not them.
Oh, my gosh.
The blackouts are completely unacceptable for a civilized society. They are especially unacceptable for a state that saw its electricity bills increase 7 times more than the rest of the United States since 2011. We're being ripped off and mistreated, and you're doing nothing about it. PG&E is a monopoly with criminal tendencies. Instead of using our money to improve natural gas pipelines, PG&E executives gave themselves $100 million in bonuses. As a result, 8 people were incinerated, 38 homes exploded in San Bruno. As part of the bailout of PG&E that you not only orchestrated, but was your highest priority, PG&E executives will get $350 million in bonuses to deal with the wildfire threat. Why are we rewarding corruption and incompetence? Why do we have to pay twice for basic things? Whoa. And he's spot on. And that's actually a monopoly. Those are the monopolists that Bernie Sanders likes. Those who are monopolies by order of the state. He doesn't like big companies in a competitive marketplace that are big companies because they've provided superior products or services to their customers. And if he doesn't like the service or the good that they're providing, then he wants to criminalize their activity. How about those two frames to inform your 2020 vote? For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by Steve Moore, economist, Wall Street Journal columnist, author of Trumponomics Inside the America First Plan to Revive Our Economy. Steve, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hi, Dan. Hi, Amy. And by the way, I'm so glad you brought this up, what's going on in California. In fact, I was just out in San Francisco last week. And look, the whole country should be paying very, very close attention to what's going on, including the residents and citizens of Illinois. This is what you get when you have radical green energy policies. You have the lights going off. You have no electricity production. You have blackouts. And as you just read, this is 2019, and they have blackouts because they have destroyed their energy supply because this insane war against electric power. Look, ladies and gentlemen, we get our electric power from coal and from natural gas and from nuclear power and the kinds of sources that Bernie Sanders hates. And so the repercussion of that is going to be that we're going to have these kind of brownouts and blackouts all over the United States if this lunacy continues, that somehow our energy companies are villains. The energy companies are the ones that save lives, that make everything we produce possible. We would not be on this radio show right now. People would not be driving their cars right now if it were not for fossil fuels. And this idea that somehow we're going to transition to 60, 70, 80% wind and solar power is truly, it's not just lunatic. It's not just bad for the economy. It is dangerous. I mean, they have hospitals and schools that are closing down in California.
Well, they should have emergency backup generators, but they don't. Some of them don't.
Well, they do. But, I mean, it's a very dangerous thing when you lose your electric power.
Right, especially people at home, who rely on the energy to, save their lives or keep them alive. But you really think that something like that, rolling blackouts, would happen even in the Midwest where there's no fear of wildfires?
Well, my point is, there's a bigger story here that, as Dan was saying, they haven't built pipelines so they can have natural gas. In New York's state, they're not building pipelines, and they have dangers of blackouts there because they are so anti-fossil fuel, and this mythology that somehow we're going to provide all the energy we need with wind and solar power. I mean, look, right now we get like 6% of our electric power from wind and solar power. They are completely inconsequential forms of energy. And if you wanted to shut down an economy and you wanted to make poor people poor, then shut down their energy. And I just think it's a very dangerous thing. And I wonder if these young people in California who think, green energy is so wonderful, now when they stick their recharger for their iPhones and their computer games in the wall, nothing's coming out. No juice is coming out.
Sticking on macroeconomic matters, Jared Kushner suggesting that there is great progress toward a comprehensive trade deal with China. Where do you understand that to be?
Well, this is not a great deal. This is it's a decent deal. And what it really is kind of a truce right now. I'm in favor of this, as as we talked about last week. I mean, Larry Kudlow and I and Larry Lindsay met with the president about 2 weeks ago in the Oval Office for about an hour and talked about this. And our recommendation was, get the best deal you can from the Chinese right now, and live to fight another day. Because look, as soon as they actually get this thing signed, sealed, and delivered, and it's a mini deal. It's as I said, it's a truce more than anything else. You're going to see the economy, just go through the roof. You're going to see the stock market boom. And then I think Trump goes into 2020 with a very, very healthy economy. And he's going to be very tough to beat. Just as a matter of politics, he's going to be very, very tough to beat if you've got a really strong economy in 2020. So I think it's a smart thing to do politically, Dan. But is this a great deal? No. It's not. I mean, it's mainly just kind of a truce. I mean, they are going to buy more of our agricultural products, more of our manufacturing products. They say they're going to stop stealing our intellectual property.
Yeah, right.
I'm a little
police
skeptical
force.
of that.
Yeah, the intellectual property police force. Yes.
GDP growth, Commerce Department issuing an advanced reading on the third quarter, 1.9% from July to September. That's after 2% in the second quarter and 3.1% in Q1. Yeah. 1.9's not recessionary, obviously, but not a great number.
No, look, the economy's been growing at 2 to 2.5% this year. We want it up to 3 to 4. I think it's the main factor has been this trade war. I think the trade war has knocked 0.5% to a full percentage point off of our growth. Now, as we've talked about many, many times on the show, I think Trump is fighting the right fight with China, but this is inflicting pain on the American economy. But I want to be very clear on this. Look, ladies and gentlemen, we have the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years in the United States. Mm-hmm. We have the lowest interest rates in 50 years. We have the lowest inflation in 50 years. This is a really, really, really strong economy. I mean, if you're a worker looking for a job, this is the best jobs market in 50 years. I mean, so this is a high-flying economy. We're growing faster than any other economy. Would I rather have had that number be 3% rather than 2%? Yeah. But 2% ain't bad, and I think we're going to see a resumption of 3% growth once we get this trade deal signed.
What do you think will happen to the markets if we do have an impeachment trial?
Boy, that's a good question. I mean, first of all, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not even following the Ukraine story that closely. But I will say this. I mean,
There's
look,
nothing
we
to
don't
follow.
have to have we don't have to have an impeachment. I mean, put the facts out there. Let people know what Trump did, and then we're going to have a trial on November 6th of 2020. That's called the election. Right? The idea that Congress would remove Trump from office is ridiculous. I mean, let the people decide next year whether they want Trump to, and put the evidence out there and let people decide. So I think this is a show trial. Again, I'm not going to comment on whether I think what Trump did was certainly inappropriate with Ukraine, whether it was illegal and impeachable. I think that's for the American people to decide, not these clowns in Congress. This is purely partisan. And I think, by the way, I think Nancy Pelosi has completely mishandled this. It's done in such a partisan way, in a way that most Americans who look at this level-headedly would say this is a completely unfair process. Why do they have to do it that way, Amy? Why can't they do everything out in the open, make it very transparent, just lay the evidence out? But that's not. The Democrats are so much, faulted by this kind of anti-Trump derangement syndrome. They can't even they can't do a fair process.
Well, yeah, because they think this is the only way they're going to win, because in 2020 they don't have a candidate, I think, that could beat Trump. But do you think the stock market would be in disarray, though?
Although
if an
I do
impeachment,
think there is one.
pardon?
Say that again.
I said, do you think the market? I mean, the Dow would sink, and all that if there's an impeachment trial.
No, well, not that much. The reason I don't think that, look, Donald Trump is not going to be removed from office by the Congress, right? I mean, they may impeach him through the House, but then, of course, the way this process works, the Senate essentially holds the trial, and the odds that the Senate, which is controlled by Republicans, would remove Trump from office are about 1 in 20, in my opinion. So then this is mainly just a show trial to embarrass Trump. And so I don't think that anybody in the markets reasonably thinks that Donald Trump is going to be removed from office, by Congress. Now, again, the election is a different matter. I think Trump's in good shape. I'd put his odds at about two out of three that he'll be reelected. But, anything can happen in the next year. It depends on what happens with the trade deal, with the economy, with all sorts of other, things that are going on in the world today. But, as I said, when you've got an economy, the lowest unemployment rate and the lowest inflation rate in 50 years, that's called prosperity. People feel it every day. I've reported on the $5,000 gain in a median family income under Trump in 2.5 years. That compares with a $1,000 gain under Obama in 7 years. So, this is a middle-class, working-class economy. People feel good about things, and if this continues, I think they could put him in jail. I think he'd still get reelected.
And as soon as they get that deal, a truce signed between with the Chinese, I should say, maybe the next step that Trump could make immediately is to, if not defund the Export-Import Bank, then allowing the Export-Import Bank to fund Chinese commercial interests. How about that?
This is such a great point, Dan. I mean, the first thing that Trump should have done when he came into office was defund all of these international aid programs, the World Bank, the IMF, all these foreign aid programs. And incidentally, it is so naive. I'm not going to talk about whether this kind of quid pro quo that Trump was talking about in terms of investigating Hunter Biden. But, ladies and gentlemen, be realists about foreign policy. The reason we have foreign aid is to get countries to do what we want them to do. It's not like I hope there's nobody actually thinks that foreign aid is a good thing and it helps countries. I mean, it only helps. It helps the political leaders in these countries. Foreign aid has never reduced poverty. You know that, Dan. I mean, foreign aid has been a complete waste. The only reason we do this, for example, we give Egypt, we've been doing this for 30 years. We give Egypt about $2 billion a year. You know why we do that?
Why?
So they won't invade Israel. It's just a bribe. Right? I mean, I'm not saying, it's worth it. We paid them $2 billion. They don't invade Israel, and everybody's, better off. So these are bribe payments. That's what foreign aid is. And the idea, there's these people, oh my gosh, we shouldn't use foreign aid to, for our selfish objectives. Well, that's why we have foreign aid.
Steve Moore, economist.
Right? Dan, am I wrong about that?
You're not. You're not totally wrong. Wall Street Journal columnist and author of Trumponomics. Steve, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
See you later. Have a great day.
Hey,
go Nats. Go Nats.
Game
that's right,
7.
Game 7.
Game 7 for Steve Moore.
He joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey everyone, Ken here. For 2 years now, you've heard Carrie and I use metaphors to test to see if you think your home or your business could use a revenue shot in the backside. Today, because of our new website, I can be a little bit more direct.